Hello all. I see that the students are posting very good questions in here. Please continue posting and we will discuss them. As we said, you find your question here, one of the questions here. You go to ChatGPT, you ask ChatGPT, it will help you with the answer, it will analyze it for you. You challenge ChatGPT, ask more questions, ask ChatGPT to explain it more, and then post it there for review. And also, as you see, we have some quizzes here. I see that the students who have been taking these quizzes have been doing great. They are getting good grades. One reason, some students are getting good grades because you can take each one of these quizzes 3 times, and the highest grade will count, and you will learn significantly by going through this. Therefore, that's one of the issues I wanted to discuss. Now, I want to show you the Social Security website. I am assuming maybe 1, 2, 3 of the students in the class go to the Social Security, to their Social Security website and check. The people who get close to retirement, go there and check. I want just to show you, how the social SSA means Social Security. Here it is, ssa.gov. This is a government website. And we all have Social Security website that it is great idea for the students to go and look at their own Social Security website and see what it is. You shouldn't give your code to anybody, just for yourself. And this is how it looks like. When you go to your Social Security website, if you see these lines are all green, do you see I have 4 greens here, which some of the students had asked questions of for the quarters that they have to work, which means if you see all 4 of them green, that means if you get to the age of 62, you are eligible to receive Social Security, However, if they are not, therefore for every, let's say for every, 2.5 years that you work, you get one of these green, which means they usually say quarterly. They want you to work at least 10 years. If you work 10 years, then you get 4 points for every 3 months that you work, Let's say for 10 years you work in January, February, and March. Then you quit. And then next year you work January, February, March. You quit. Again, in a year, for 10 years you do that. This will, be completed because you have worked 10 years. And for each year, you got 4 points. To get 4 points, you have to work, I think, 3 or 4 months. You get 4 points. And then one question sometimes they ask is that these work, when you work, it doesn't need to be sequential. That means you can work, 1 year, this year. Then if you quit and 3 years from now, you come back and complete. Therefore, the 10 years that is supposed, as I said, when we say 10 years, doesn't need that necessarily to work from January all the way to December. As long as 3 or 4 months, I think, is in there, then you are all set. And therefore, once it is full, that means when you retire, you'll receive, you can receive Social Security. But your goal, if you can be best benefited and you can get the most out of Social Security if you work 35 years. And I'll tell you why. Therefore, when you log in, you see your salary, annual salary. Suppose my salary, is, I'm a government employee. My salary is on the website of the government. That's what I am getting, now. And then if you look at here, this line is very important. It says that currently I am, 63 years old. If today I retire, I get 1,944. For every month that I work, I get $10 more, which means if I retire in December, I get, instead of 1,944, I get 1,954. Therefore, for me, every month that I work, $10 will be added to my retirement account when I retire. I can retire today and get 1,944, but I won't retire. The more you wait, therefore, if I wait until 67 years old here, this is what I am going to get, $2,578. If I wait until 70, means only 3 more years, if I wait, look at how much I get every month. 3,265, which means my salary goes because of working 3 more years until 70. I get $700 more per month. That's why financial advisors usually for the people who don't have a lot of investments, they encourage them to see if they could wait until say age 70. For every 1 year that I delay my salary, I get 8% more from 67 to 70. Therefore, which means 67 to 70 means 3 more years of work gives me every year 8%. You multiply 8 by 3 means 25% more. Your salary will be increased every year from 67 to 70 every year by 8%. However, from 62 to 67, every year you postpone it, your salary goes up by 5%, which is a good deal. You know why? Because if you put your money in the bank, it gets 4%. But the good thing is that when it comes, your question would be when it comes to December, January of this year, you might think that I will get $20 more, means $10 for January and $10 for December. You think that if I retire in January, I get 1,964. But guess what? I will get 2,000 suddenly. Why? Because the government gives the retired people a raise every year around January. What is that raise? That raise is just compensation for the inflation. Because the inflation usually is 2%, therefore the government gives me 2% raise. That's why means that when I work 1 more year, not only I get 5% more every year because of extra work I am doing, and also I get 3% raise from the government for my Social Security on average, because the government wants to compensate me for inflation. Therefore, that's why their financial advisors try to recommend to tell the people, hey, please try to stay at until age of 67, to work until 67, because that's called full retirement age. 62 is called early retirement. You get 30% less. That means that this is what I get. And if I retired at age 62, I get 30% less than this 2,578. And if I work only 3 more years, I get 25% more. Therefore, we want you to know about it. Then you can calculate this. Suppose you can come here. I say, okay, let's see if I retire today, how much I will get. If today I retire, I know that 100. If I retire in 1 year, therefore, in 1 year, I will be 64, for example. My age will be 64, and I say calculate. If I retire at age 64, do you see how much I get? I get 2007. But this 2007 is not adjusted for they call it COLA, C-O-L-A, cost of living adjustment. The government gives me a raise above this around $40 more. And that is 3% more, let's say 4%, $40 more means that, 2% more to compensate me when I get to, 64 for the inflation. And as you see, when I retire early, the earlier you retire, this line will be flat. But when you retire later and later, it goes up. Therefore, that is based on assumption that I make this much salary. However, let me go back to 67. And here you go, 60, I go to 63, calculate, and that's where I am at the moment. Now, if suddenly I go and my salary, look at here, if it goes to 100,000 a salary, that means I am paying more Social Security. Therefore, these numbers jump up here. Imagine I am making 67. Now I click here and I say instead of 67, I make 200,000. Because I am making more money, I am paying more Social Security, then the government has to pay me more. That means that instead of 2,578 at the age of 67, I might get $2,800. Do you see that? Then I come here. I want you to show you one very important table that, let me see if I can find that table here to show you that how the salary that you make will contribute. Here you review full earning record now. This is a very important, table that I want you to look at. And the more you learn about it, the better it is. I click here. Let me close this. Let me see. Here are my salaries. Look at here. I have been working since 1986. In that year, I made $1,918. Did I work 35 years? I can tell you. Look at how smart I am going to do this. I transfer this one to Excel. Those of you who don't know Excel, better quickly learn. That is a great tool. Did I copy that? Let me make sure I copied. One more time, I am going to highlight this. These are the salaries that I made, and I have paid Social Security on them. And my employer has paid on my behalf as well. And then I copied. Now I go to Excel here. And then I am going to click here. And I am going to paste it here to see how many years I have worked. Look at here. I will show you how many years I have worked. If you look at here, if I come here, do you all see here 34, 35, 36, 38? I have been one lucky person. You know why? I have worked for 38 years. However, in 1986, I didn't make that much. Do you see? I made only 1,900. I didn't contribute in those years. Think about it as 2,000. $2,000 of 1986 is equivalent of $6,000 of today, which means that on those days, when I made my money, I made around $6,000 a year, because of the inflation, it was 1900. Therefore, if one day, if I work, therefore one thing you want to show, if you want to have the maximum amount of Social Security that you get, make sure that you have worked at least 35 years. And make sure these numbers are growing and the higher you make, the more money you are contributing. But let's not forget, you might have your own business. And if you do not pay Social Security, you are not going to get Social Security because you have to pay Social Security taxes. The taxes you pay to the IRS, that is income tax. That is not Social Security tax. Social Security tax is around 6% of my salary when you are employed. I pay to the Social Security office, and my employer pays 6% also. Therefore, think about it to make it easy. In this year, which I made around 50,000, that means that 6% of $50,000 is around $3,000. My salary was deducted by 3,000, and my employer put 3,000 on top of that, and it became 6,000. It deposited in my Social Security with the federal government, and therefore 6,000 I contributed this year. For example, look at here. For this year, I contributed myself and my employer maybe $6,100. Do you see that? And maybe this year, last year, how much? And then last year, this is around 70,000. And 4,000 I deposited to my Social Security. My employer deposited 8,000. Imagine for 35 years, I have been paying and my employer has been paying. Therefore, the federal government looks at it and calculates to see how much these are. And those numbers you saw in my Social Security come from this. Those numbers come from this. The higher these are, the better it is. When it is the best case scenario, the best case scenario is that if this $8,000 was here, do you see that? Because here, how much Social Security I paid here? And in those years, 120 I paid because 6 times 2 is 12, 120, and 120 my employers paid. I paid 240 of, 20 years, 40 years ago is equivalent to 3 times of the money today, which means $800 or $700. Do you see that? $700 is not that much of a money. You know what my wish was? That when it was this year, I had paid $8,000 of Social Security. You know why? Because $8,000 of 38 years ago is equivalent to 24,000, 8 times 3, because the impact of today because of inflation is around, which means I had paid the government 24,000 of today's money. Do you see that? Therefore, you understand that while you are younger, you pay more Social Security, it's going to have compounding effect. When you retire, it will be tripled after 3 years, Therefore, here, of course, when the government adds all these numbers, it comes to this conclusion that I have paid the government as much money that that would give me this rate that you all saw in my Social Security, and therefore I click home, and that is the home, and I come back here, and those money, this number that you see here is coming from this Excel sheet. It is calculating all these numbers that I have, worked up to 38 of the most paid. You know what federal government would say? The federal government won't count this one. We said that it only counts 35. It says that let's give him on this one, because this is so little, it doesn't count this one. And this one is little also, because even if you multiply it by 3 in today's money, it will be, 12,000 is not, I'm sorry that I said to it, because the Social Security here is 6%. 6 times 24, that means that 204 is 500 in those years. I contributed myself and my employer to my Social Security. Do you see how little it is? If I ask you in today's money how much it is, it's only $1,500. That is less than what I am paying today. Today I am paying much more. Therefore, the government will count this one, because this one is only $1,500 of today's money, but this one is 8,000. Therefore, the government says 8,000 is more than 1,500. Therefore, it doesn't it crosses out 3 of the low payments. That means it doesn't consider this as if I didn't pay this, which is okay. And then it counts these that, I have paid more social. Therefore, your goal is to see if you can work for 35 years, and also you can have a salary. But that salary, as I said, should pay for Social Security and also Medicare as well. Medicare is a part of this line. If you do not have these numbers in here, I think you won't be able to get Medicare. You have to have these greens. As we said, to get these greens, you have to work for 10 years. And those 10 years doesn't mean 12 months every year, at least 3 months every year. And these years don't need to be consequent, surely. That means that, therefore, but the problem is that if you work only for 10 years, you will get only for 10 years of social. Look at 10 years. If you put 10 numbers in here, they won't be that much when you put it for 10 years. But when you put it for 35 years, it will be a lot. The federal government wants to return some money back to you. The more you have in here, the better, the higher Social Security you have. Hope you understood this. I strongly recommend that you all, if you want, log in. If you don't know, if your parents don't know about it, log into this website and help them to see this Social Security. And of course, these numbers are supposed to be secure. You are not supposed to give your passcode and those things to anybody. And check on that and bring it to this Excel sheet and look what you have done, how many years you have paid, and look at these numbers. Therefore, I said that in here, $500 of 30 years ago is equivalent to, $1,500 of today. And guess what? 20 years ago, if you make 500, that 500, 15 years ago, if you make 500, that 500 of that year is equivalent not 3 times, but 2 times of this, money. Therefore, the people who made a lot of money long time ago and have high numbers here, they are lucky people because they make, more money. But this is something I want you to pay attention. There were 2 students also said something. One student, to qualify for full social, we already talked about it. And power of compounding. Okay, we will talk about this, but I want you to pay a lot of attention to this Social Security.